So my name is Patrick McIntyre. I lead development at Krispy Kreme. It's really two things. One, it's concept design, construction, and maintenance of our existing facilities. And two, basically the capital stack. Money in, how do we prioritize it? How do we spend it? How do we measure the return on that investment? I've been at Krispy Kreme 16 months. As said earlier, I worked at, actually, I'll start at the beginning. I started off as an entrepreneur. Well, let me take a way step further back. My father was an entrepreneur. And so as soon as I was old enough to lift a box, I was loading a truck. So I grew up across the country selling the greatest thing you never needed for 1995. And my father always said, go get an education and go work for a big company. Go get an education, go work for a big company. Go get an education, go work for a big company. So what did I do at the age of 18? Does anybody want to guess? I dropped out of college and started my own company and borrowed $5,000 from my dad and $5,000 from my sister. And so fast forward a couple years, I was in my early 20s running a multi-million-dollar entrepreneurial business and way over my head, and then got an offer to sell it. And so I did what any young 20-year-old does when they're offered a lot of money. I took it, and I spent it way faster than I earned it, and then said, now what do I do? And so I went back to school, I got an education, and I was like, all right, let me try this retail thing with a big company. So I applied at Walmart, I applied at Target. Target called me back, and so I drove my really fancy brand new car that I just bought with all this money and started working at Target, making, I don't know, $42,000 a year, some ridiculous number. And it was humbling, to say the least. But I wanted to prove that I could do this corporate thing. There was something about it that was appealing to me. And so for 5 years, I did the corporate thing at Target. I ended up moving to Minneapolis, which is where I live now. Do we have any Minnesotans in the... All right, where in Minnesota? St. Paul. Okay, that's the other city. I live in Minneapolis. I'm just kidding. I live in Minneapolis. St. Paul's a good town, though. So I've been in Minneapolis ever since. I then got a phone call to work at Mars. I thought it was a planet. Apparently, it's this big company. And I was there 15 years. And my last role there was the chief operating officer of our retail division, most notably M&Ms, which is how I had the power to put your face on an M&M. But I'm not here to talk about any of that. I'm here to talk about Krispy Kreme. So with all that being said, let's get into the fun. We go to these conferences, we sit in the room, we meet some people, we drink some beer, 5 people go for a run at 6:30 in the morning or whatever it was. And we probably walk away remembering 1 or 2 things. Right? You're like, oh, that one thing unlocked it for me. So I hope to give you 3 things today, which is stay true to who you are personally, but I'm actually speaking to the brand side of it. So be true to who you are as a brand, simplify your organization, and find leaders who can lead. And the last one's like, yeah, okay, that's an easy one, but that's what I'm probably going to talk the most about at the end because I think it's the most important. And these 3 things as an entrepreneur, working for a big company, and now working for a public big company really, really all ring true to what needs to happen. And so, who knows Krispy Kreme? Do we get it? Anyone not know Krispy Kreme? I have proven my point. We have the #1 strong brand presence in the sweet treat trade. We've been making donuts the same way since 1937. Our founder was Vernon Rudolph. He was a baker. He made donuts in a factory, and he was selling them to a local grocery store. And the people that lived in the town were like, hey, those donuts smell really good. Can we have some? And so he opened the window and he started selling donuts out the window. Sounds like my dad, right? And so he's selling donuts. And since the birth of Krispy Kreme, we have been this 2-channel business. We've been a wholesale business and we've been a retail business. In the 1940s, we centralized our mix. Vernon Rudolph was a very smart man. And he said, you know, what makes this donut special is the mix. So I'm going to put it in one facility. We're going to make the mix once. And to this day, that mix in the 40 countries that we service is still made really in one facility. Yes, we have redundancy to my supply chain friends and the audience, but all of that is still made in the same facility. By the 1950s, we then were making our own donut making equipment. So the proofer, the fryer, the line, all made in-house, all made by our own technicians, all made by our own staff. That brings you to light, fluffy goodness. Anyone want to describe their Krispy Kreme experience to me? Anyone love Krispy Kreme? Okay, right up here. Yeah, I'm picking on you. What do you love about it? Say it loud. Everything. But what about it? The glaze is amazing. So in the 1990s, we really expanded. We went public, we went private. We've been a long history, 87 years, a lot of money in, a lot of money out. The thing that we were famous for, though, was people would come into this shop, and there was this real authenticity that you could watch the donut being made, and then you could see it go through the proofer, and then it would go through the fryer, and it would flip over, and then it would go through this waterfall of glaze, it's called. Thank God my marketing team's not here, but the waterfall of glaze, that's what we're known for. And so what do we do in 87 years? We try new things. There was a time when Krispy Kreme sold pizza. Anyone from Texas here? Anyone know, what's a Kalowski? Am I saying it right? Kolache. Thanks, see, I'm not from Texas. We sold kolaches in Texas. We've sold ice cream 3 times. We've sold waffles twice. We don't do those things. Why? This is not who we are. We have to focus. For 87 years, we've been making the original glazed donut, and in many ways, we've lost our way. And so we have to find ourselves back to what is the thing that we are known for? What are the things people care about? What do they love? Because when you have a hot donut, whether you like donuts or not, it is amazing to taste. It is just, and you all know that. So Krispy Kreme can be found in 12,000 points of access. I'll get to that math in just a minute. We're in 40 different countries. Most of the international countries are franchise or joint ventures, but here in the United States, we're mostly company owned. And this is a United States audience, so this is the United States go-to-market strategy. On the left, you have our hubs. On your right, you have our spokes. So hub is exactly what it's called. It's where we make a donut. It's the hub. It's the center of the wheel. And so we have 3 factories that we're making donuts in. One of those, in Vernon's honor, you can go to the drive-thru and you can get a donut from the factory. And the rest of them are the theater shops that I was talking about that you could see the donut get made. There's about 320 in the US. From there, though, we then distribute every single day, 364 days a year, to our spokes. And our spokes are, first and foremost, fresh shops. Those are shops that we own, smaller format, much tighter story, just selling donuts. And then we have about 6,000 what we call a daily fresh delivery doors. That's your Kroger's, your Publix, your Walmart, your Target, your C-stores, your racetracks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we recently announced a partnership with McDonald's to be on their menu coast to coast in over 10,000 restaurants. So that's our go-to-market strategy. Sounds great. You got a great product. You've been doing it for 87 years. People clearly love it. You all know it. What's the problem, right? What's the challenge? And so this morning, Christoph was talking about the brief. And I was sitting in my chair like screaming, yes, it's all about the brief. Because when I joined the organization, there was all these great people. And they love the brand and they love making donuts and we're spreading joy and we're like, yeah, donuts, it's awesome. Because it's a donut company, right? It's fun. But it was way harder than it needed to be. And so we introduced all of this complexity to the business. So food regulations have changed. I'm sure we all know that. But in our world, when we're selling to, let's say you have a shop that's selling to Costco and to Walmart, it may be making more than 50% of its revenue in wholesale. So we stand up the quality and food safety team and they go, oh, that means you have to register it as an FDA facility. And we know what that means because we have factories, but factories are not run by everyday Krispy Kremers. And so now we're introducing all of this complexity into a retail format that's serving you and your families and your friends and your kids through the drive-through, while also having a 3-day audit from the FDA. So that's been some challenge. 2 and 3, we all know the labor model has changed and consumer habits are just changing. And so I won't speak to you about that because you all know and live that every day. But as an 87-year-old brand, we have to embrace these things. So then it's like, what's the brief? And so when I joined, the CEO, Josh, we worked together at Mars, kind of a friend. He's like, look, we're building these like bulletproof Krispy Kremes. They're costing this, I have to censor myself, beep, amount of money, ridiculous, eye-watering amounts of capital to create these facilities. And they're taking like 3 years to build. Why does it take so long to build these things? Why are they so expensive? And are we really getting the return on our investment? 2, so that's the cost side of it. So 1, we had no retail design strategy. And so on your lanyards, it says Live It. Live It actually did some work with us over the last year, helping us with our prototyping. And as we went through that journey, one of the things that I kept saying is, what do our consumers actually want? Because we have all these great things and all these great assets, but what is the real core of what consumers care about? And give me that in a kit of parts, because what I put in Times Square is going to look totally different than I put in Sao Paulo, but it needs to be consistent. So like scale the design, pull the costs out, and increase the guest experience, or what Christoph called this morning, the vibe. I love that. I love, love, love the vibe. A Krispy Kreme has a vibe. It can be good, it can be not so good, but it has a vibe, right? Because it's kind of industrial. There's someone making dough, and there's this big thing moving, and it's got a vibe. Different than Saucy's vibe, but has a vibe. I don't remember what my next slide was. Don't remember. So I got into the organization. We're doing all this great stuff. We got this clear brief, and we hired an agency called Row. And so Row it's an agency, but I'd worked with some friends there, and they're really multidisciplined, and they're very, very, very talented at what they do. And I think Tiffany from Dave's Hot Chicken talked about this morning. How to have your vendors as an extension of your team. And when I looked at the Krispy Kreme team, 87 years of history, a lot of great people, doing a lot of great work, but not connected, but very stuck in this is how we do it. We know how to make a donut. This is how you do it. We know how to mix dough. This is how you do it. I'm like, that's all great and awesome, but how might we think about it different? Let's talk about the different things. So anyway, Ro helped me come up with this slide, which is everything on the left are a bunch of projects that are very rational. How do we make the back of house efficiency? How do we make the drive-through better? How do I have a format strategy? And then on the right side is all the emotive things, right? What is our consumer journey? What is an experience workshop? What are all these different things that we can do? But how do we tie the whole thing together? And that's what was missing. And that's fundamentally why I was hired. And that's really been the brief that I've been given and I've been working on. And so this is basically my last slide. And we'll get to the fun part, which is usually me bringing donuts, but they wouldn't allow me. So take that up with Zia. What I talk about internally is like all those projects matter, but they have to be pulled in and focused to one thing. What are we trying to do? And everyone plays a role, an ingredient in that. And so my job fundamentally has been to do what Ro did to us, which is hold up the mirror. Because for 87 years, we've been making donuts and they're great. But for 87 years, we've been doing it the same way, and business has just moved on and we have not. And so my takeaways and my action and what I implore to you is, again, these three things. One, Krispy Kreme should not be selling pizza or ice cream or waffles. We should sell amazing donuts, and we make freaking amazing donuts. Two, in every process that you have, whether you're facilities, maintenance, design, construction, finance, you're probably working out of an Excel spreadsheet, there's a way to make your job simpler if you just have the right conversation and talk about it. So simplify, 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 and bring that up to leadership. How do we simplify what we're trying to do? And third, which is the one that I feel most passionately about as leaders, is find leaders who will lead. We all manage shit. The last guy swore, so I can swear. We manage stakeholders. We manage the board. We manage projects, but we don't and shouldn't manage people. We should lead people. We should lead people to do something different, to think differently, to challenge the status quo, to believe in something bigger than what it is they're doing. And that, in my entire experience, and I know I look a lot younger than I am, but in all that experience, when I see the real transformational work, the real things that have made a difference in a business, it's always come down to leadership. So look in the mirror tonight. Are you leading or managing your teams? Look at your teams, your managers, your directors, your VPs, your SVPs. Are they leading their teams? And also look up. Ask whoever that person is, are they actually managing you, or are they leading you and your team? And that's hard. But when you do it and you're brave enough and you have the relationship, it makes a big difference. So I'm Patrick McIntyre. I love sugar. I've worked at Mars, M&M's, Twix. I love donuts. That's my speech. Happy to take any questions if there is any, but thank you very much for your time.
What is the future? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Myself?
You and the company.
Wow. Making awesome donuts. We got a lot of work to do. We've got to fix our operations first and foremost. I mean, we're opening up 10, we're actively working on, I'd say, 30 sites in the US. We're actively probably going to open up 10 realistically in the next 18 months. We're going to remodel 10% to 20% of the chain over the next 6 months. We're really investing in the US. Internationally, it's very different. You know, if you take an Australian Krispy Kremer and you walk into their shop and you say, wow, your shop looks really clean. Why? They look at you like, because of my fucking job, mate. You walk into downtown Chicago and you ask a Krispy Kreme, why is the floor sticky? They go, I don't know, it's not my job. Like, it's just a different culture. And so we've got a huge piece of work that we're doing internally on operations. We've got to reinvest in the brand. We've got to simplify, and we've got to make awesome donuts. And that's just the end of it. Because when you look at the sweet treat space, you know, particularly in whatever's going to happen in the economy, people like sugar. And we could talk about GP1, we could talk about AI, we could talk about all those things, but people have been eating chocolate and sugar since they've discovered it. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon.
And that's it.
Thank you very much.